Start from text number 8. Hare Krishna.
तो जी कल से थोड़ा हाफ एन आवर जल्दी स्टार्ट करेंगे क्योंकि यहाँ पे टाइम चेंज हो गया.
So here in this verse number 8, Srila Rupa Goswami, he is giving the Upadesha Saram, the essence of all instructions. And that is, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Kalam Nayed Akhilam Iti Upadesha Saram. That one should not waste his time without remembering the beautiful form, his wonderful qualities, and sweet name of the Lord. He says that is the Upadesha Saram. That's the essence of all instruction. Tannamarupa charitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasi niyojaya tishtan vraje tadanuragi jananugami kalam nayeda khilam iti upadesha saram. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time 24 hours a day in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees, who are deeply attached to the devotional service. See, up till now, Rupa Goswami Pad, he has explained about what happens on the Shraddha level, then on the Sadhu Sangha. When someone really does Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajan Kriya starts. And when Bhajan Kriya starts, what is the result of that? That takes away all anarthas. Then Nishtha. And previous words we have seen the Ruchi, how one can develop Ruchi of the or taste for the holy name of the Lord. That's by constantly chanting the holy name of Lord. And now he is speaking about the principle of asakti, how one should get attached to the holy name. Tannama rupa charitadu sukirtananu smrityoho akhila kalam nayet. Without wasting a time, one should engage in remembering the wonderful form, name, and qualities and pastimes of the Lord. Kramena rasana manasi niyojya. One should engage his tongue and mind for that purpose. And how that happens? That happens by Tishthan Vraje Tada Anuragi Jananugami. By residing in Vrindavan under the guidance of Tada Anuragi, who are attached to the Lord. If someone follow the footsteps of the devotees, then he can stay in Vrindavan. And Kalam Nayed. In that way, one should spend his life. That is the real purpose, Altogether, in this verse, Rupa Goswami Pad is giving a wonderful principle that one should train his mind because that is needed. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that how one can do that, why one should do that, and what is the process for that. So the first line of purport, Prabhupada says, since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. In the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, Lord also explains about that. Chitatmana prashantasya paramatma samayata. Who has conquered his mind, for him, he can attain the Paramatma. Sometimes mind behaves like a friend for us, and sometimes he behaves like an enemy for us. So if you train your mind to become your friend, then to make a progress in spiritual life becomes very easy. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in the Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. And that's why we can see sometimes we sleep that we are flying in the sky, because those impressions of flying from the bird life, they are still there with the mind, and sometimes they come up, on the surface. So in this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text number 6, it is said, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajantyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers, when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So, see, it's very essential to understand, because our body is dying each and every moment. So we are dying each and every moment. So whatever consciousness that we are carrying right now, that same consciousness, we are taking it to the next part of our life. So we have to be very conscious. As in the Niti Upanishad, it is said that someone who wants to stay in this material world and wants to enjoy, he should remember that he is not dying. But someone who is performing devotional service, he should remember always that he is dying each and every moment, so that he can become serious in his spiritual endeavor. Otherwise, it's tough. So, Prabhupada writes it here. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. This process of transcrimination is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami Pada advises devotees to train their mind because that is needed. If you don't train, then it's really difficult. If you train your mind in a order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises, Tishthan Vraje, one should live in Vrindavan or any part of Vrajabhumi. Vrajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishna smarana janma chasya preshtam nija sammitam tat katha rataschaso kuryad vasam braje sada. A devotee should always reside in the Vrindavan, the transcendental realm of Raja, and always engage in Krishna Smarana Janma Chasya Preshtham, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associate. By following in the footsteps of such a devotees, by entering under the eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Lord Krishna. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tad bhava lipsuna karya vraja lokanusarataha. In transcendental realm of Vraja, one should serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the guidance of particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, the God realization, when one is Siddha Purusha or spiritually perfected soul. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse in his Anuvarti Tika. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting, remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, pastime, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such a things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and a protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarana Avastha, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Smarana. So we need to understand here now these terminologies which are most important. If you understand the meaning, then you will try to do or act upon that platform. So here Prabhupada, he says there are different levels and a different process of remembering their lordship. So first is that Shravana Dasha, where the neophyte can hear about Krishna Katha constantly. Then second is when you start hearing about the Lord, then you accept that in your heart. So that is Varana Dasha. So once you have accepted that, then someone becomes very much attached to that. And then the Smarana Avastha comes. And again, this Smarana Avastha is divided into 5 parts. The first is Smriti, remembrance, where devotee is trying to chant the holy name. It is the initial stage where he remembers their lordship, but sometimes he forget. The next one is, that's what called the recollection, the Smriti means. Then there is a absorption, that is dharana. When someone holds it up to his heart, then it is called dharana. Dharayati ite dharana. Dharanat dharayati, that is dharana. So there he chants or remembers their lordship constantly. When that same absorption is focused then that is called as a constant remembrance, that is dhyana. Then further is anusmriti, constant and vistrut, expanded, progressive, so that is anusmriti. And next to that, the last one is called samadhi, that is trance. So Prabhupada says here, at the first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at the intervals, but later remembrance proceeds to uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and it's called meditation. And when meditation expands and becomes constant, it's called anusmriti. And by uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi. A samadhi has a fully developed. The soul comes to the understand his original constitution. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. And that is called Sampatti Dasha, the perfection of life. So these are the 5 different dashas of Smarana. And Shravana, Varan, and Sampatti. So Shravana is hearing about the Lord in the initial stage. Shravana is accepting that in your heart. Third is remembering. So that remembrance, that avastha, the Smarana avastha, there are 5 different categories, depending upon your surrender and your elevation in that remembering Krishna. And the last one is attaining the perfection in that. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord, according to the directions of scriptures. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such an attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principle. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associate of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Shantarasa when one aspires to be like a Krishna's cow or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like a Chitrak, Patrak, or Raktak. In the friendly Sakya Rasa, one can become a friend like a Baladev, Sridama, or Sudama. In the Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by the parental affection, one can become like a Nanda and Yashoda. And in the Madhurya Rasa, characterized by the conjugal love, one can become like a Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita and her serving maids. Manjari is like a Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all the instructions in the matter of a devotional service. So this is what asakti means. So someone who attains all these stages of remembrance, then he can become very dear to their Lordship and able to perform the devotional service under the guidance of a siddha or perfected devotees. So any question regarding this or needs any
Prabhuji,
explanation? Yeah.
even in Golok Vrindavan, Shantaras exists, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it is there. No? There are trees, creepers, flowers.
But they are willing to serve. That's why they are. I mean,
Yeah.
how come it's not Dasya Rasa?
See, everyone has their own. They are passive, Other rasas, they are active. physical activities are there. So where there is a passive activities like trees, becoming a flower and just hanging around the Lord's neck for whole day, that's the real perfection in that particular rasa. In
So they
Golok
stay.
Vrindavan, all those rasas are perfect in their own ways.
So I mean, Dasya Rasa and Shanta Rasa, they can, I mean, they are like stages, or they are all equal
They are all
in
equal
Golok Vrindavan.
because everyone has a different bhava, different rasa. It's not that someone in the Dasa rasa and he elevate himself and becomes a paramor or conjugal rasa. No, that is different. Everyone has his own fixed rasa and they love in that way.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
That's why variety is the spice of life, and Krishna, he loves with variety. So all these rasas are there so that differently everyone can reciprocate with the Lord. See, Dasya rasa has a Shanta rasa. Then next to that is like a Sakya rasa. Sakya rasa has all the qualities of Shanta and Dasya. Sakha can serve their lordship as like a servant also, and he can just sit and be around the Lord, passive in Shanta rasa. That also happens with the Sakya rasa. Next to that, Vasalya rasa. In Vasalya, Mother Yashoda is serving to Krishna, as like a Chitrak and Patrak they are doing. They are also helping Mother Yashoda to serve in Vasalya rasa to their lordship, bathing him, putting him garments, cooking for him. Seems to be Dasya, but she is doing it in a Vasalya rasa. So bhava is higher, okay, in that regard, where all other bhavas are also inclusive. And topmost is Madhurya considered because Madhurya contains all these rasas. Make sense? Hello?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Then we can go for next verse or we can do it tomorrow.
We'll do it tomorrow, Prabhuji.
Okay, because it's already late. We'll start half an hour
Early.
early. Okay, sure.
Mm.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
रूप की जय। श्रील
Jai.
प्रभुपाद की जय।